Today we're talking about useless skills in 7 Days to Die. Let's get to it. There are a lot of really good skills that you can learn in 7 Days to Die, and I've covered a bunch of different combinations to do everything from make you invisible to make you immortal. But today I want to take a look at some skills that are just basically useless and honestly should get completely reworked or removed altogether. And we're starting off with Treasure Hunter. So I want to start by saying that the treasure maps thing is kind of cool. It's kind of a nice little thing to do, like a nice little side adventure. It's like, oh, you get some loot, you found a treasure map, cool, that's kind of neat. But that whole mechanic is not filled out enough to have its own skill. First off, the treasure maps are rather low chance to get. Your best chance to pick them up is in a zombie loot bag, and even that probability template is set too low. Everything else that they have a chance to show up in, the loot probability template is set to very low. So that's its first downfall. The chance to actually get a treasure map is relatively low. Let's take a look at the actual code for the treasure hunter skill. The only things that really matter here in all of this code is the passive effects. So we have the treasure blocks per reduction. So if you don't know, every time you dig so many blocks, that's what shrinks the circle. But on top of that, that whole thing doesn't really matter. It's not like these treasures or boxes that you dig up are hard to find. They're not hard to find for the quests, and they're not hard to find for the treasures either. You basically just go to the center of the circle and start to dig down. In most cases, it's going to be somewhere around the center. The effect they have here that matters the most is the loot quantity. And you can see it's got a percent add, 10, 20, and 30. So what does that actually affect? Let's take a look at the loot itself. So this is the loot table for the buried treasure. You can see we have the loot group, which is the buried treasure group. And then inside that, it's got the groups that actually spawn the items. It's got the valuables extra large and the ammo pile large. Let's start by taking a look at the valuables extra large. You can see inside of that, it can spawn some old cash, casino coins, silver nuggets, gold nuggets, and raw diamonds. And then it has a count, so it can spawn anywhere between those numbers. So for example, you can get anywhere from 100 to 500 old cash. So this is all stuff that you're just going to sell to the vendor. Let's take a look at the ammo pile. So the ammo pile has a bunch of loot groups inside of it. So we have the ammo large, the ammo resource large, the ammo medium, no arrows, the ammo small, no arrows. So that's all just ammo. Everything inside those groups is just ammo. And then we have weapons, low, medium, and high. That group is in there twice. So you have a pretty good chance of getting some weapons. And that's it. That's all you're ever going to find inside these treasure chests. The quantity is probably not going to affect the weapons at all, because your chance of finding more than one is basically none. So it's going to affect the things that spawn in stacks. So for example, the ammo, the coins, the cash, stuff like that. And maxing this skill out only gives you a 30% increase in the quantity of items you get. To put that into perspective for you, if you manage to get the full 8,000 dukes out of this thing and you have this skill maxed out, that's only going to increase it by 2,400 dukes. Most of those smaller numbers that you get aren't going to increase very much. For example, you can only get a max of 6 gold nuggets if you have Treasure Hunter maxed out. That's going to be 1.8 additional gold nuggets. You can't get 0.8, so it probably rounds that up to 2, so you would get 2 extra gold nuggets. And overall, this whole thing is just a waste of points. You would be much better off putting those points into something like Lucky Looter, which increases your loot stage, which affects everything that you open. Now, from what I can tell with loot stage, one thing I'm sure of is loot stage affects the quality of the items you get. So if you do manage to get some guns to roll inside of the treasure chest, they would be a much better quality than they would otherwise be if you didn't have Lucky Looter or a higher loot stage. Now, I still don't think Lucky Looter is that great. It didn't make the list today, but it's still a much better choice than picking Treasure Hunter. Next up, we have Demo Expert. Demo Expert isn't the worst you could pick up, but it's definitely not one of the better ones that you can pick up. Let's take a look at the code for Demo Expert real quick. So of course, it's going to increase your chance to get the books for explosives, and it's going to increase your chance to find explosives, and it's also going to give you a bunch of increased abilities for explosive things. So dismemberment chance, explosion block damage, entity damage, handling, and reload speed. Now, this only affects things that have the perk Demolition Expert tag on them. The only things that have this tag on them are, you guessed it, things that blow up. So exploding arrows and your rocket launchers, as well as things that you can throw and things like the mines. Here's my problem with Demo Expert. Blowing things up is great. I love blowing things up. Who doesn't love blowing things up? It's fantastic. But in this game, it's a niche situation when you're gonna blow things up. You're not gonna be running around all the time just blowing everything up or using a rocket launcher. Crafting the ammo for those things is relatively expensive. Even crafting exploding arrows is relatively expensive, and you're not gonna just be using them all the time. There are very niche situations when you want to use explosives, and usually those situations are situations that you set up specific. So for example, a horde base made to be able to take explosions where you group zombies up and then blow them up. There are much better things that you could spend your points in that aren't this, that are gonna be things that you're gonna use all the time. And that's basically it for this one. It's just too niche of a situation to put any points into unless you've completely finished your build and you just don't know where to put points. Next on the list in no particular order is the Infiltrator. This skill is more of a waste of points than Treasure Hunter. So what it does is it makes traps trigger slower. So for example, boards that would normally fall quickly will take a second longer before they fall. This is pointless. If you carry blocks on your hotbar, falling down into a hole that's full of zombies is pretty quick and easy to get out of because you just nerd pull your way back up out of there real fast. Or depending on where you're at in the game, that may not even be a problem for you. You may be excited to fall in a large zombie hole. It also allows you to take less damage from landmines when they blow up on you, and at max level, it allows you to pick landmines up. Let's start off with the whole landmines thing. So Urban Combat Volume 5 just makes you immune to landmines, which makes this entire skill basically pointless when it comes to the amount of damage that you take from landmines. This book is not hard to find. I find it in pretty much every playthrough with little to no issues. Okay, so we have the trap delay, not a big deal because dealing with traps in a POI is never a big deal. And we have the taking less damage from landmines, which is made pointless by a book. But what about picking landmines up? Okay, when are you going to use them? When are you going to use landmines? You're going to put them outside your horde base so you kill like 2, maybe 3 zombies on a horde night? I mean, really, like you're going to waste points to be able to do that? That's just dumb. It's just dumb. It's a useless skill, but not nearly as useless as this next one. Well insulated. This skill just doesn't even matter anymore. This used to matter, but now with the rework to armor, wearing any armor at all completely negates all of the temperature changes. Like for real, here I am midday in the desert wearing primitive armor, completely fine. Here I am at nighttime in the cold, completely fine. What's the point of this skill? Why is it still in the game? They reworked armor so that wearing armor negates all the temperature nonsense. It's useless. It should have been removed when they did the rework to armor or changed to something better. The skill is beyond useless. It just doesn't belong in the game anymore. There is only one situation in which this skill would actually be useful, and that's if you're like doing a naked run of the game where you're just not going to wear any clothes or armor or anything and see how long you can live. Like that's the only use for this skill, which yeah, okay. On to the next. Charismatic nature. I love the idea of charismatic nature. I really do, but the skill, the way it's implemented is just not great. The only good bonus it has is 3 levels deep, and that's the 10% less incoming damage for everybody around you. That's actually a fantastic bonus. To take 10% less damage with some builds would make them even more immortal than they already are. Like if you did my immortal tank build, I'll link it down below, check it out, and you were playing with somebody that reduced the amount of damage you take by 10% more, you would be able to tank literally anything for as long as you had to. You would just be an absolute unstoppable force. But once again, like I said, that's 3 levels deep into the skill. What about the increased loot? Well, it says a total of 30% because at level 4 you get 10% and then at level 5 you get 20% for a total of 30% better loot. But I'm not sure what exactly that means. I can't see the code for it. Well, I can, but I can't because all of these are hidden behind a character variable and I have no idea of seeing what's actually behind that character variable. But let's just say it increases your loot stage by 30%. That's meh. The loot stage doesn't really matter too terribly much. I mean, it does a little bit, but 30% increase is not going to make that big of a difference in the quality of loot that you're getting. Now, the big one here, the one you think would be really cool, is the +1 to all attributes. For this to actually be good and useful, you would have to build around it. Now, I want you to picture something. You've built around this and having your partner next to you, giving you that additional point allows you to have maxed out parkour. Your partner dies because all crap is broken loose and they managed to bite the dust because they went support. And you were relying on them to have the increased jump height from maxed out parkour, but now all of a sudden you don't, and you can't get away from the zombies the way you expected to get away from the zombies, and then you die. Having your skills turn on or off or change depending on whether or not the people or person you're playing with is next to you, I can't imagine a worse hell. I really cannot. Like, that would be terrible. I would just be angry and ragey all the time. If you want to be a support, your better option all around would be going with something like Physician. This is going to help you and your team so much more. Physician allows you to heal them for more, faster, and heal their critical injuries faster. That is 10 times better from a gameplay perspective for a support build than anything you're going to get out of Charismatic Nature. If you actually want to play a support character and want to see a good support build, I actually made one. I'll link it down below in the description. And that's pretty much all I have for this video. Do you agree with this list? Do you disagree? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What skills do you think are terrible? Let me know down there in the comments section. And if you found this video helpful or informational, please consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. And if you're looking for some more of my 7 Days to Die content, you can find the link to another one of my videos on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.